I did everything right, so why do I still feel empty? If that sentence could be your opening line every morning, then you are not alone, and you are not broken. I've sat with dozens of people who ticked every box their parents, teachers, or social feed told them to tick. Good grades, steady job, a partner, a mortgage, polite social life. On paper, you look successful. Inside, there is a quiet hollow that no checklist seems to fill. Today, I want to walk you through why that happens, and more importantly, what you can actually try tonight to begin shifting it. I say this as someone who talks to folks about feelings for a living, not to put a medical label on you, but to offer tools that help people regain a sense of agency. Think of what follows as 4 practical movements, small shifts you can practice, not magic bullets. If this feels like it's speaking to you, hit subscribe. It helps us keep making these kinds of conversations. Movement 1. Step back and watch the scene. Imagine your life as a movie. Not to judge the actor, that's you, but to sit in the audience and notice what's on screen. Where does your energy go during the day? What parts of the script are automatic? When people feel empty despite having it all, it's often because the engine running their days is external. Obligation, approval, avoiding discomfort. That makes you a passenger, pushed by currents instead of piloting from an inner compass. Start with a neutral inventory. Tonight, take 5 minutes and write down, without judging, 3 columns. What you did today, who you interacted with, and how drained or alive each thing left you. Use a simple minus-plus scale, -2 to +2. Include obvious things like work meetings, but also small drains, scrolling social media, answering texts, chores. Pay attention to your social battery. Who leaves you energized and who leaves you flattened? Note your sleep. How many hours? How fragmented? Jot a line about food. Rushed breakfast, skipped lunch, takeout dinners. These observations aren't therapy notes, they're data. Seeing the pattern begins to separate the external shoulds from what actually fuels you. Pause and imagine your little paper boat image. You might have built the boat exactly right, neat folds, good paper, but if you're in a storm drain of obligations, the craftsmanship won't matter. Observation helps you find calmer water to float in. Movement 2. Stop pouring salt on the wound. Once you can watch the scene, you'll likely notice a second actor who's been adding suffering. Your inner critic, routines that replay childhood expectations, or a habit of punishing yourself for not feeling grateful enough. We are experts at doubling down on pain. A mistake happens and we replay it as evidence we're failing at life. That extra layer of self-inflicted suffering is often what turns normal demotivation into a prolonged, hostile internal climate.
Here's one immediate thing to try. When a harsh thought shows up, you shouldn't feel this, you're lazy, you ruined it. Name it out loud or in your head. That's my inner critic. Labeling creates distance. Then take one grounding breath and delay the next mental move by 30 seconds. In that pause, choose a neutral action. Drink water, put your hand on your chest, stand up. The goal is not to banish the critic, it'll come back, but to stop submitting to its automatic script. This tiny interruption weakens the chain between painful feeling and punitive response. A concrete example. Maybe you got a critical email and your reflex is to ruminate for hours, imagining yourself as incompetent. Instead, notice the rumination, label it, and set a 5-minute timer to think about solutions later. You're not ignoring the issue, you're refusing to feed the fire right away. Movement 3. Be the advocate for your inner child. This is a metaphor, not a clinical diagnosis, a way of naming the part of you that learned early ways to survive and never got its needs met. Sometimes the emptiness comes from those unmet needs turning into adult habits. I'll work hard to be loved. I'll keep the smile to avoid conflict. I'll succeed to silence the shame. The inner child is simply shorthand for those old scripts. Ask yourself one concrete question. What did that younger version of me need that they didn't get? Maybe it was to be seen, held, reassured, allowed to play. Now imagine telling that younger you 3 things they needed to hear. Short, specific, compassionate lines. Write a very short letter, 5 to 8 sentences to them tonight. It can be simple. You were brave. You are not alone. I will keep you safe. After you write it, choose one adult action that supplies something similar today. Set a small boundary with a coworker. Schedule 15 minutes for something you enjoy, or make an appointment with a therapist. The point isn't regression, It's pairing compassionate inner recognition with realistic adult steps. If this sounds a little silly at first, that's okay. Advocacy changes the internal narrative from "I must prove myself" to "I can care for myself," and that shift is critical for filling emptiness from the inside out. Movement 4. Refuse self-pity and reclaim gentle responsibility. These words can feel harsh. Refuse self-pity. I mean only that there's a difference between tending to your pain and collapsing into helplessness where nothing changes. Self-pity keeps you stuck because it frames you as the passive victim of circumstance. Compassionate responsibility says, "Yes, this hurts. How can I skillfully move now?" It's not blame, it's agency with kindness. Pick one tiny task you can do tomorrow that reconnects you with your competence and with a sense of cause and effect. It could be a 10-minute walk, making a simple, nourishing breakfast, calling one person who usually listens, or prepping one healthy dinner.
The task should be small enough that it's doable, even when you're low, and meaningful enough that completing it sends a gentle signal. I can influence my inner state by my actions. That signal accumulates. Over days, small wins rebuild the feeling that you matter to yourself. Now, a necessary, clear safety pause. Feeling empty is different from clinical depression. If your low mood is persistent, weeks to months, if you have trouble sleeping nearly every night, experience marked changes in appetite or concentration, or if you have thoughts of harming yourself, that is a medical matter and needs professional attention. I cannot and will not tell you this is just lack of effort. Depression is a treatable condition. Seek a clinician for assessment. If you are having thoughts of self-harm or are in crisis, contact your local emergency services or a crisis hotline right now. In the US, you can call or text 988 for immediate support. Please do not delay reaching out. Back to the movements. Integrate them without pressure. The point is not to transform overnight. It's to test and gather information. Try one movement for a week. Maybe tonight you do the 5-minute inventory. Tomorrow you label the inner critic once or twice. The next day, write that short letter to your younger self and choose one adult action. The following day, pick the tiny competence task for the morning. Track how each move shifts the inner weather by a small degree. A few practical self-audit items to keep in mind as you observe the scene. Social battery, who fills you and who drains you. Sleep quality. Nutrition patterns, not to moralize, but to notice energy spikes or crashes. And relationship scripts. Do you apologize first, avoid asking for help, or take on more than you can handle? These aren't moral failings, they're patterns. Patterns can be adjusted. Let me be clear about what I'm not promising. None of this is a guaranteed cure. You may try these steps and feel a little better, or you may find they help only a bit, or not at all. That's okay. The work of inner repair is often incremental. But most people who feel empty because they did everything right are helped by shifting from doing for external approval to doing from an internal, curious place. Curiosity trumps blame. Advocacy trumps punishment. Small, consistent acts beat dramatic, unsustainable pushes. If you're thinking, this sounds helpful, but I don't know where to begin, pick one tiny thing. Tonight, write the 5-minute list. That single act will create clarity. If you can, tell one supportive person what you're noticing. Naming it aloud reduces its power. Before I close, a few final reminders. Be kind to yourself about the time it takes. If you grew up learning to care for others before your own needs were met, relearning how to meet your needs will feel unfamiliar. That's normal. Give yourself the patience you would give a friend. Now, I want to hear from you.
In the comments, share one small thing you'll try this week. The 5-minute inventory, naming your inner critic, writing the short letter, or choosing one tiny competence task. If this resonated, share it with someone who's quietly doing everything right but feels hollow. You might be the bridge between obligation and recovery for them. And if your symptoms are severe, persistent, or you're thinking about harming yourself, please contact a mental health professional or a crisis line immediately. You did many things right. That alone shows resourcefulness and care. The question now is, what does your inner life need that those right things didn't provide? Try these 4 movements with curiosity, not judgment. Small, steady attention to the inside often changes the outside in surprisingly real ways. You deserve that attention.